Am I really always right? Such a powerful question that Eckhart Tolle mentioned in one of his video teachings that I listened to, and it made me reflect on how we spend so much of our life energy proving to people and or to ourselves how right we are. We put so much focus on defending our ego, our mental position, and very little on self-reflection and being interested or curious with our thought patterns, perceptions, and reactions, and why we feel intense emotions to begin with. We do not even question if being right is worth fighting for, and if it really does contribute to you having a peaceful and fulfilling life experience, or if it actually causes you to become aggressive, defensive, fearful, exhausted, and drained because you need to always be ready to protect and defend your mental position of being right. The need to prove our rightness has caused us broken relationships and war against nations, and humans have been notorious for even killing another human being because of this dysfunctionality. I think it is important to first point out that we are not our thoughts and our ego. It is a mental structure, a habitual mental thought process, a conditioning that we have inherited from the collective. Realizing this detaches you from attachment and identification with the mind, and when that happens, you are no longer the character you are playing, which in this case, the one who is always right or the one who continuously and consistently has to be always fighting to be right. And in that state of being, you are most alert, awake, enlightened, intelligent, and more powerful than the possessiveness and the strong pull of the cunning mind and emotions. It is simply you being the awareness and the watcher of your conditioned mind. Can you even feel how much more alive and alert you are now? Can you feel that quiet yet fierce, soft yet strong presence that is unmoved by the stream of thoughts because it knows the unreliability and weaknesses of it all? It is so liberating to know the truth about the functionality of our mind and who we are. Our entanglement and identification with this functionality to think and analyze has caused the collective so much suffering. Notice how I said our entanglement with the functionality is what causes suffering? Because the mind and its functionality is not an enemy. It is a wonderful tool that allows us to participate in display of form, to create and contribute. But what happens is we become identified with our creation, so-called achievements, and our mental knowledge that we end up losing ourselves in all of it, and that is when we develop identity crisis. It is important for me to first point out the conditioning of our mind before diving in the main subject of this vlog, which is, are we really always right? So that you understand that you are not your mind and can see better the pointing of this teaching to help you with your own experience of awakening, liberation, and salvation from the stronghold of the mind. Am I really always right? You might think it is a silly question until you start observing your own reactions to many things that trigger your I am right ego. What is it like for you standing in a long and slow line at the grocery store? How do you respond or deal with someone from a different political or religious group or a different belief system? How do you handle a coworker or a boss giving you constructive criticism? I bet the mind will start coming up with a long list of reasons that supports the why to your reactions, which usually points to the direction of you being right. But no matter how subtle it is, the underlying motivation and reason is the need to prove, protect, and defend. There is a place for bringing attention to a server who served you cold food, communicating the need for your coworker to submit a certain report on time, choosing to walk away from a toxic situation or relationship. But there is a difference in energy when you are simply communicating to bring about a positive change in the situation, which is done without the presence of ego, versus complaining and pointing a finger, which usually is loaded with narratives and stories that the ego feeds on, and the main intention is to prove, protect, and defend being right. This teaching is pointing towards the direction of reversing the conditioned mind from automatically defending to be right to becoming alert and interested with our habitual conditioned mental structure, thought patterns, and reactions by way of questioning the why and even perhaps the root from which the triggered pain body or ego of needing to prove rightness stems from. It is a simple and effective practice, but it does require a high level of alertness and dropping the arrogance and ego to be able to experience the liberation from wanting to be right. I have recognized that the sense of lack or insecurity feeds that ego that needs to be right. And in that insecure space, there is fear, illusory concept of someone being wrong and right, false concept of achievement as well as power and strength, addiction to conflict, and a deep sense of sadness and loneliness. The illusory concept of someone being right or wrong creates this illusion that there is also a winner and a loser, and so the battle begins. To be liberated from this illusory game, one must wake up from this delusion, recognize the insignificance of it all, detach oneself from the conceptual mind pattern, and disidentify from the egoic mind of being right and them being wrong. The false concept of achieving being right and them being wrong, and picturing yourself as someone more intelligent, quickest to draw the sharpest tongue, and the best one in killing your opponent with your deadly closing remarks, strengthens and fuels the ego. And when you are not able to see this and you feel very resistant, that means you have entangled your pure essence, which is the awareness of your conditioned mental structure. Spiritual practice and realization is necessary for your own liberation and salvation. If one isn't ready to approach spiritual practice, suffering becomes the very thing that can and will push you to want to wake up from the egoic mind. The fear of appearing to be weak if the battle of being right is not won also fuels the motivation to win the illusory competition. There is also a deep sadness and loneliness because of loss of genuine and loving connection with fellow human beings, especially after engaging in a being right battle. A person who exudes aggressiveness and heavy energy tends to push people away, hence the lack of mutual loving relationships. Life energy is drained from having to engage in a battle all the time, and so the person tends to become limited in cultivating peace, creativity, joy, and stillness. Self-awareness truly is the key to salvation and liberation from this kind of dysfunctional egoic mind pattern. The mind has made it a habit to react in a defensive and always needing to be right way. It will require a high level of alertness to detect this habitual pattern in you, as well as this identification and detachment from the mind. The simple observation and catching yourself falling back to this unconscious state is enough. Trying to fight, suppress, or resist the mind pattern using mental abilities or even affirmations, or replacing negative with positive thoughts can only lead to more suffering, as you are going to create another ego in the form of the one wanting to be a good or kinder person. The doorway to this space of awareness is interest and curiosity in your own reactions, perceptions, and emotional responses. If before you are so identified with your perceptions, beliefs, opinions, and feelings, and you end up developing a false sense of identity, you will now become the awareness and the quiet observer of your thoughts, perceptions, feelings, and beliefs. And this is the space where you will find liberation from the stronghold of your conditioned mind. Freedom from wanting to be always right allows you to become alert and alive. and it takes you out of the illusory battlefield of the egoic mind. And when you are in the presence of someone with very strong ego or pain body, you stay vigilant, and the vigilance provides you with the grace to see the ego in the other person. And so you become more compassionate because you know what it is like to be possessed by the egoic mind. And choices are then presented to you as to whether to stay alert and awake or to enter the space of unconsciousness and fight the battle of being right once again. My favorite choice is being accepting and aligned with the now and the unfoldment. And that includes allowing not just the unfoldment of the situation, but also accepting and allowing the person to be who they are and choosing not to resist or change their behavior. And that state of being takes you to that space of absolute joy and peace that surpasses all understanding. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, peace be with you.